What's up, guys? Welcome back.
Welcome to Chiss Ascendancy. Sorry.
I was trying to go 3 weeks in a row.
It was such a strong start that I was like, oh, he's just taking it.
I like the little slide you did there.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so welcome back, like Samuel said, for the third week in a row. 3 is a charm. To the Chiss Ascendancy. You're in episode 17.
Wow.
So we made it.
It's gone by so quickly.
I think I say we made it every single week. We made it to episode 9. We made it to episode 10. Oh, we're a decade's episode old. Anyways, okay. So today we're going to jump into something that's not talked about enough, in my Star Wars opinion. Today we're jumping into everything Count Dooku. Everything we know about Count Dooku. Maybe not every single thing we know, but a lot.
Some of the things that we know.
And so, super underrated character, but also underexplored until just recently.
Yeah, and I feel like up until the novel that we're going to discuss a lot, Dooku Jedi Lost, which came out as an audio-only special. Yeah, with full cast and everything. It was like...
oh, yeah.
What was the name of that? Adventures in Odyssey. The only thing worth getting up for on Saturday morning on FM radio. But anyway, so I just feel like it rounded out his character a lot. To me, it made him more appreciable. I just hated his guts and I didn't like anything about him. But it kind of made him, I guess without being overly specific in Star Wars, it humanized him. You know.
You racist.
I know. Me and Palpatine ruling the galaxy.
Yeah, I think that it really humanizes him and it really gives depth to his character.
Absolutely. And
R.I.P. to the legend, Christopher Lee. But he's a very, I don't know if it's because he's so old or what, but there's just, as an actor, even as Saruman from The Lord of the Rings, he's just not as relatable as a character.
He just has this regality about him that you just don't feel like you're on the same level.
Yeah.
He just feels too dignified to exist. You know
and maybe
what I mean?
It's just the limited exposure. Like, he was at the very end of episode 2, very beginning of episode 3. He's in the Clone Wars, but you don't... It's kind of like Grievous. Like, I've never had an emotion for, towards Grievous besides he's cool. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like
he's a coward.
I feel like Darkseid characters, Lightside too, but Darkseid, you should feel a certain type of way. Like with Vader, especially in episode 5 and 6, when Empire and Return of the Jedi first came back, you could see the relationship building there between him and Luke. And you're like, oh my God, what if he could be saved?
Right.
That's the whole Kylo Ren question. Even with Palpatine, it's like you have an emotion of like, oh my God, this guy is insanely powerful. Yeah. You're afraid. You're excited to see him back from the dead. If you're an episode 9 hater, turn it off right now. I don't want to be your friend.
He doesn't mean it.
I 100% mean it. So
stay for me.
But before we get into that, let's get into the news.
Yeah, let's talk about some news before we get too deep in the Dooku pool.
Breaking news.
All right. First on the list.
And most important on the list since a long time.
Wow.
We keep having Mandalorian news, and it just keeps coming. It's just still happening.
Yeah.
So Mandalorian Season 2 is good news. CEO of Disney, not Bob Iger, can't remember the guy's name that replaced him, but he has said that Mando Season 2 will still be airing in October. There hasn't been setbacks and things like that.
Sweet.
With the whole Rona going on. So he said it's still good to go. They've already greenlit Season 3 before Season 2 is even out, so that's dope.
That's how confident they are.
So we will have more Mandalorian than we ever had of Resistance before the second season even drops. R.I.P. So Mandalorian Season 2, here's some news, okay? Tamura Morrison, who is known for his role as Jango Fett in Episode 2. I'm just a simple man trying to make my way in the universe.
Get that guy. Things, we're leaving.
Pack your things, we're leaving. So he played Jango Fett. He has been casted to play a bounty hunter you might have heard of before, named Boba Fett, for Mandalorian Season 2.
Possibly.
I
went away for that reference. He was rolling up his sleeves while he's talking to Wheelan.
Oh, good job. Yeah. ever been far enough as Coruscant.
Possibly.
So, anyways, the thing is, Disney, everybody's like, don't believe it until I see it. And I totally get that, but Disney's the type of person to not say a dadgum thing until the season rolls out.
Yeah,
and Star Wars Celebration and, San Diego Comic-Con has both been canceled.
No, saying they play their...
Oh, yeah, cards
close
I
to
thought
the
you were
vest.
saying you were trying to talk and I was talking,
Oh,
so
no.
you like pulled back. Like I attacked you.
No, you're good.
So, Tamura Morrison is the ripe old age of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And so...
Which is such a cool concept.
What a cool thing.
Yeah, what a legacy.
Look at us.
Look at us. Hey, say it again.
Look at us.
Look at us.
So, let's see. Attack of the Clones came out in, 2001?
I want to say 3.
3?
2?
I think
it
it was
would be
3.
appropriate if it was 2.
I think it was 3 because 5 was Revenge of the Sith. Eh?
It was 2002.
Ooh,
Good job, Adam.
Hey, pull that up, Jamie. Pull that stuff up, Jamie. That's Adam. I can't exactly quote Joe because I don't curse. But, yeah, pull that up. So, 2002, so 18 years ago, he played Jango Fett, and 18 years later, still handsome as the devil, but just a little bit older. If you're just listening audio-wise, Sam just gave me a look like I was going to hell. So, he's aged, but he's still got the same amazing
Friendly
voice.
with the devil, eh?
There's a cozy spot next to the fire for you. So, it's just a perfect
Joey.
time. Now, we have to talk about this, and you're going to get irritated.
Yeah, let's just... Where's that can of worms? Let's open that up.
Okay, so a couple weeks ago, months ago, however long, I don't know. Corona has not. What am I? 35? Am I 50? What's going on? How long have we been doing this? But a certain amount of time ago.
Every day I wake up, I feel like I've been in a coma. I don't know where I'm at.
Put your boots on. It's cold outside. It's like freaking Groundhog Day.
It's cold every day.
So, anyways, Rosario Dawson was reported to have been cast as Lady Ahsoka Tano. That's my Darth Maul voice. For Mandalorian Season 2.
Darth Maul is
He's out of breath British guy.
a doctor from England in 1850.
You've got influenza. Influenza, is it?
Fetch my slippers, I'll catch it too.
I will take tobacco, and if you can't find my pipe, give me my heroin. What's wrong with a little opium? Anyways, yeah. Freaking doctors back then were idiots.
They're like...
What do you mean the leeches didn't work?
You have trouble wake up in the morning? I was in the middle of my own joke.
Did you pee on them?
We haven't discovered caffeine yet. Just have some cocaine.
Yeah. This will put a pep in your step. How about a cocaine? Perhaps a little...
You know what? We should make a soda with cocaine.
We'll call it cocaine cola. You know what? Can't
God,
fall asleep.
Early 1900s. It was a wild time.
I know.
I've seen memes where it's like, yeah, my grandma will talk about all the crazy stuff she did in her day, but she also took cocaine, so...
Dude, imagine being in England and you're like, yeah, I'm going to go down to the Asian part of town and go into a room where there's like 65 other people on bunk beds that are 5 stacked high and just get into one of those and just take a needle to the arm. They've been in the dishwasher. It's safe. And
I believe they
frickin'
smoked
just
opium at that time.
pass out. Well, I know that Sherlock Holmes injected it with a needle. I know that he's a fictional character, but I expect that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle did his...
It depends on the way you take it. You smoke it and then
you smoke it and then you smoke it in the
It's a very
bum.
diverse
Do
narcotic.
you think they did butt chugs for heroin?
Anyway, so Katie Sackhoff has been cast as Bo-Katan.
So what is this, Clone Wars 3?
Yeah.
Quit!
Anyway, so this The can of worms.
The can of worms is that everybody wants Tamura Morrison to be
Rex.
casted as Captain Rex instead of Boba Fett. In addition to Boba Fett.
If you've gotten this far, I assume you've watched some past episodes. If you haven't, let me refresh your memory. In the Rex versus Cody fight, Josiah picked Cody, I picked Rex. Rex is one of my main men. But I'm tired of him in everything.
I think
He should be dead by now. Let's be realistic. It's 5 years after Jedi. People are saying that old guy with the beard looks like Captain Rex from Rebels. And they're like, oh yeah, that's Captain Rex. But that's 5 more years. In the life of a clone, that's like 25 years almost.
So, you know what I'm realizing? I don't think we've ever gotten a specific... You know how dog years are 7 human years?
Allegedly.
I wonder, like... How does that work? What's the accelerated rate?
Right.
Can you look that up? Here, look that up. Hey, Jamie.
Let's do the clickety clack.
But
Everybody
that's the thing is that unless the, I've heard rumor where part of what Ahsoka wanted to do after her time on Rebels was to go back to Kamino and try to get the accelerated aging reversed.
So it says with the clone troopers, it takes 10 years to reach mental physical age of 20. So it's about...
So it's times 2.
It's double time.
Because Rex is 10 years old.
Yeah, so that's still 10 more years after Jedi for his life. And he's already ancient.
Well, okay, so if you've got... Pardon my borrowing this pen. Okay, so if during Revenge of the Sith, pretty much by Order 66, which is the end of the movie, Rex is 20 years old, right? And then it's 19, let's just round up to say 20 more years.
He would have been 20... at the start of Attack of the Clones.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because he would have been mature. He would have been with 501st.
So there's 3 more years, which is 6 more years. Mm-hmm. So by the time, at the end of Clone Wars, he's like 26?
Yeah.
So if he's 26, and then there's 19 years, so we'll round up to say 20 years, just for the roundness of the number. Mm-hmm. That's 40 more years in Rex time between that and A New Hope.
Yeah.
So, at the beginning of A New Hope, he's
now 66
years old.
It's all coming together. Oh my See, it all connects.
So, and then
between... an office reference for you if you didn't know.
Between A New Hope and Empire, it's like 3 years, and then it's another year between that and Jedi, so that's like 4 years.
8 years total.
So 8 years total. Rex. I don't know how much time is between Empire and Jedi, or A New Hope and Empire, but it's a few years. So, if it's 3 years... plus 1 year for between that and Return. So we're looking at 8 more years. So he's,
Rex time.
That's what, 74? And then plus 10.
Plus 10.
So he's 84.
84.
By the time of The Mandalorian, if they don't find something to stop his aging.
And that's like...
You know who's not 84? My man Tamura Morrison.
Right.
You guys are haters.
Here's my thing, is that, all respect in the world to the men and maybe some women who fought in like the World Wars, but I see a World War II vet. They're not doing much these days.
Yeah.
They're
well, when you see them at a ball game and they're like, hey, the guy that's going to have the game ball today is, Sergeant whatever, earned the and I'll be at home and I'll stand up. Heck yeah. Right. Stand up, clap for those veterans. But they're standing there, and there's like 5 of them.
But their season has passed.
Well, not just that, but it's like, if there's 5 of them there, 4 of them are like, don't even know what's going on. And the other one is like, he looks like he could still do some stuff. But by stuff, I mean like groceries. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not like, hey, protect the child.
Yeah, and so it's just
also, don't you think
the concept of Rex is spent?
Don't you think Rex is freaking sick of this crap?
He's gotten enough screen time, man. He was in all of Clone Wars. He was in Rebels. He was in
Clone Wars again.
Yeah, he's done.
My thing is,
and here's the other thing is that he's been cast as Boba Fett, and Boba Fett's already in the show. Just let it be Boba Fett.
That's my weird thing is, why can't you just be happy for me? I was happy for you guys when Clone Wars came back out.
Yeah.
Be happy for me. Give me a little Boba Fett screen time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The only way I'll be happy, if he does play Rex, if he does both. That's the only way. But if he's not Boba Fett
There's
and
no
he
way
is Rex,
if
I'm
he
gonna
is
be
Rex, he's not both.
if they do that.
Anyway, so
secondly, Bo-Katan, who is she was the leader. She was in Death Watch, and then
she's got
Duchess,
the red hair.
Yeah, Duchess
stops
Satine's
conveniently where your helmet's at, so you can't see it under the helmet.
Duchess Satine's sister, and then
she's got to get a trim like once every 2 weeks.
She's also at the end of Rebels.
That's the longest bowl cut in the world. All right, I'm done.
At the end of Rebels, Sabine Wren gives her the Darksaber, and that's the last we see of it before Moff Gideon reveals it at the season finale of Mandalorian Season 1. So there's the tie-in there, is the Darksaber, the restoration of Mandalore, that sort of thing. Is she... I mean, it's kind of weird, because, like, you know, they've been hiding in the shadows. So Bo-Katan was the one that's like, I'm going to lead the people against the Empire. Yeah. And then that's what happened to that, because they had the Great Purge, and everybody's scared for their lives.
By this time is...
And how old is she?
Like 6 or 7 years older than Ben Kenobi was in A New Hope.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have the Force.
Yeah.
So she dies like a regular person.
So it's like, I don't know. I can see where they could make it work, I guess. But anyways, but Katie Sackhoff has been the person who has been voice acting for her and looks surprisingly like her.
It doesn't surprise me.
So she's going to be in there. Now, this is what people have been saying. I haven't seen any rumors or any confirmation or anything.
I hope it's in like a matriarchal capacity.
Maybe it's a flashback to the Purge.
Yeah, maybe so.
So the question is, with Boba being in there, and then you have Bo-Katan, we already have Ahsoka. Does this mean that there is this place here for Sabine Wren to show up? Because at the end of Rebels, the whole shtick was Ahsoka and Sabine are going to go together to find Ezra.
Right.
Or whatever. So is Ahsoka in a flashback? Is she current Ahsoka? I feel like Ahsoka makes more sense in the current timeline. Right. I feel like Bo-Katan makes more sense in a flashback because of the actress's age. Right. Versus the character's age.
And here's the other thing for me, personally, is that the thing that made Mandalorian so successful in my mind is that it was a new avenue in every direction. Like,
that's
they
what
had
makes
things
me nervous.
That were familiar, right? But it was still so original that they weren't trapped by other comparisons to other things, because they didn't have any characters. They weren't like, he's not the same here as he is there.
And that's why people who aren't Boba Fett fans are like, no, I don't want to see Boba Fett in The Mandalorian. Right. And I respect that. I just want to see Boba Fett. I don't care about your feelings. But I think that I'm starting to get a sense of, like, I love Dave Filoni. I think he has an amazing understanding of Star Wars. I think that the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars is maybe collectively the best Star Wars we've gotten under Disney. Who knows?
I've really enjoyed it.
I really, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Rise of Skywalker. But I think that I enjoyed those last 4 episodes of Clone Wars more than maybe Force Awakens. For sure Last Jedi. For sure Rogue One. Probably more than Solo. I really love The Rise of Skywalker.
It's really high ranking.
But if you put those 4 together and make it like, you know, like an hour and a half movie, it's freaking fantastic.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
And it's got Jedi, Sith, and Mandalorian as my 3 favorite things. These are a few of my favorite things. Okay, so the question is, does this mean that Sabine is in the loop? I just don't want it to become like a Clone Wars and Rebels reunion.
Yeah, that's what I don't want. I just want more new stuff. More new things.
More new stuff. And it's like, man, I love the animated stuff. I really do. But I'm
nervous about how well it'll translate to live action.
It's not even that to me as much as, like, that's going to bring the haters out of the woodwork. It's going to bring, like, I just need a season of, we will have peace. I just need some Star Wars peace in my life. Dadgummit. We've already got murder hornets out there. Just leave it alone. How about some Star Wars peace every once in a while? God. You know what's going to happen is there's going to be a peace declared. And that's when we know that the Antichrist is about to come. Oh, my God. As you can tell, we're Christians.
All right. So we're going to... All right. So we've talked about this. These are our thoughts. in speculations and
I
the
would.
latest news
Here's the
about
thing.
Mandalorian.
I would love to see Sabine. I'd love to. Like, it'd be cool. I'd like to see all those people. But
I'd rather not, though.
if I don't get Boba Fett and I do get Sabine and all those people, I'm going to rage.
Right. Well, then, honestly, if
I guess the opposite of taking my shirt off in excitement, I'll just put a second shirt on.
Put on a nice sweater.
A sweater. This is a nice sweater.
Thank you. Got it at Target.
Nice.
I don't remember when. Maybe like 2014.
Whoa.
I've had it for a while.
Cardigan.
We've been through places together.
Cardigan.
It's a cardigan, but thanks for noticing. So yeah.
So let's get into the nitty gritty.
Let's do
as
it.
Jack Black says. Let's go. We're talking about Dooku. Here's the thing. I wasn't a fan, and I don't think you were really a fan. He wasn't the guy that when I saw his toy in the store, I was like, oh my god, it's Dooku. Like,
I saw that one.
But there was the cool episode 2 toy that you could click the thing and he flipped and he had magnets in his feet.
That was cool.
That was pretty raw.
I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. That was right up there with my episode 2 Obi-Wan toy that had a really crappy magnet in his hand that stuck to that assassin droid.
Yeah.
And it
well, yeah, the
never
magnets
stick.
in the episode 2 toys were not like, and it's an invisible magnet hidden in the hand. It was like,
yeah,
he sticks to the droid.
Yeah, it was like literally sticking out of his hand, and also it didn't stick very well.
Yeah.
The wrong kind of stick that magnet had, to say it like Yoda would.
So Dooku is, Star Wars does this thing with characters where it's like, we'll give you a lot of the ones you don't like, and not so much of the ones you really like. So I don't know, I felt like
I was
at the time.
I was like,
do you feel like
I was
Darth
almost
Maul?
entirely apathetic when I heard we were getting a Dooku novel.
Yeah, I didn't really care.
Yeah, I was
And
like,
then-
I have to listen to it, right?
Right.
But,
We wanted to keep, even before we started the podcast, especially we talked about the Darth Bane novels and stuff. And we in that episode, we talked about, now we're always like, did you pre-order the book? Only
Right.
5 days left,
Right.
And
you
so,
got a discounted rate if you do it early.
yeah, like we try to do stuff ahead of time.
Well, because I genuinely look forward to it.
Right,
You know, and
so-
I actually enjoyed this book that we're going to discuss a lot.
And-
more than I expected to.
Yeah, it was and hey, hats off to Cavan Scott.
Scott.
I'm not 100% sure how to say that, so if you read this, sorry. But yeah, it was really good, and I really loved.
It was cool how it was presented.
Like, I liked it so much that when they ended up turning it into an actual book.
Yeah, printed book.
They printed the
Kinda like,
the screenplay kind of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like what they did for
Cursed Child.
Yeah.
Is that what you're going to say? That's what
I was gonna say Cursed Child, and I was gonna say they've also released Fantastic Beasts screenplay.
Oh.
Because Fantastic Beasts was kind of like a short story. And now that they've expanded it, is that still happening?
Yeah, that third movie's going to come out eventually. But Fantastic
Sheesh.
Beasts was supposed to actually be like a...
Like a manual almost.
yeah, actually they have that on audiobook. I've listened to it. Just like a description of the different
Oh, that's cool.
creatures.
Today we're going to talk about rhinoceros.
Right.
So they released kind of like a screenplay version of that. And so I was like, oh, neat. So they released the same style.
Yeah, I like reading that.
Screenplay
Because
of-
it looks fat, but I can read it in like 3 hours.
Yeah. Of Dooku Jedi Lost. And just the cover artwork is just beautiful.
I always like the
Why? Okay.
the duality that you get in those pictures.
I like Ventress. Nothing against her. I think she should have been on the cover of Dark Disciple, which she was. But I really wish we would have gotten Dooku and like Sifo Dyas.
I would have liked that, but I understand why she's
Yeah,
on the cover.
I
You
get
know what I
it.
mean?
Yeah.
Like first of all, most of the book is supposed to be through her eyes. It's her figuring out Dooku's past, and I think that Asajj is like more a manifestation of Dooku than probably any other character that we have. You know what I mean? Like,
What do you mean?
she's the character that he molded. You know what I mean? Every aspect of her personality, you can basically tie it to Dooku. Like either her hurt, which pre-existed, but it was, inflamed by Dooku.
Well, it was amplified and manipulated by Dooku.
Right.
Dooku is a weird character because
he's so influential in small ways. You know what I mean?
Well, Dooku's also the guy that, as you unpack him more, and I guess we should just go ahead and start doing that.
Yeah.
But as you unpack him, you start to identify with him more because you know more about the character, and you start to have more empathy than before because you know more about the character.
Right.
But you also are unpacking how much more of a piece of crap he is than you realized before.
Well, and it's like if you start to analyze his relationships with others, you can see where his politician tendencies carry over even into his personal life, where he's everything he does is a chess move. You know, even in his relation, he doesn't have any real friends.
There are those people that you know that maybe you were friends at one time, but they text you or they call you or they're like, hey, how are you? And your first thought is, what do you want? And Dooku is that guy. Dooku is like, if you text me and say, hey, what are you doing? I know that you legitimately want to know what I'm doing. Is it a good time to come over?
Right.
Like tonight, UFC Fight Night. I really want to watch those fights. I'm going to text you, hey, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But there are those people that go, hey, what are you doing? And you're like, I don't have $5. Like, they're always asking for something. You know what I mean?
If I had $5, I'd spend it on my own Twinkie.
I got a text like that today. And I was like, So anyways, Dooku in a way, though, is like, I do feel empathy for him because Dooku is the ultimate pawn.
He is and he isn't. You know what I mean? It's like that. It's like that aphorism: "Hurt people."
Yeah.
You know, like
that's true.
He was manipulated, so he manipulates. Like that's the only way he knows how to interact with people.
Yeah.
Because even in
but
the
that
Jedi
wasn't
Council,
that wasn't always though. That's what's so crazy.
Well, I mean, like I'm saying, even as a Jedi in general, everything that's done to you as a Padawan is meant to guide you in a direction.
In a good direction.
Right. But it's still meant to, everything that's done is done to you. You know, there's very little things done for you. You know what I mean? And so I think that kind of just started to add on to his own trouble to find his identity, you know, in the fact that, you know, you're removed from your home planet. And part of his struggle is that, unlike a lot of Jedi, he does have contact with his home family. He does have contact with his home world. And that's what really...
Against the rules.
Exactly. That started to really birth that conflict because he's seeing the difference between what it looks like to be a family, where you kind of do stuff for each other, as opposed to being a Jedi where your life is service.
It's a giant service.
Like
servitude.
Your whole life is a responsibility. You know what I mean? Nothing is done for you.
And when you come from a place of... wealth, or coming from a place of like people have served you, then it's harder. I just don't think his personality tends toward like, I do think he's a public servant. I do think he has some people's welfare in mind, but it's all tied back to him. How does this reflect on my family? How does this reflect on Serenno? How does this reflect on... You know what I mean? It's not like...
Well, that's like, if you know
it's not Walker, Texas Ranger.
That's Serenno in general. You know what I mean? They're very appearances based.
Yeah. So let's unpack it. So Dooku, this is kind of... Star Wars does this a couple times. So up until Palpatine... When is his name revealed? In Plagueis?
I didn't even think in Plagueis. I was thinking about it. I can't remember.
I think it is Plagueis.
What is that noise?
I don't know. It sounds like a child.
Do you hear that?
He's watching a movie?
Anyway.
God. The loudest TV in the history of the world.
Dude, he is... our dad is super funny because if you do anything like slightly noticeable noise-wise, he'd be like, "Can you turn that down?" But he lives his life max volume.
Speakerphone.
He literally exclusively talks on the phone speakerphone. That volume better be cranked or it shouldn't be on at all. Anyway, back to our scheduled program.
Dooku, man, we were talking about Palpatine's first name. I think it was revealed in... God, when was it revealed? Frickin'...
Palpatine?
Like his first name.
It says...
Sheev.
In the Sheev?
Sheev. It's his first
Sheev's
name. It wasn't revealed in any of the movies. It wasn't
It was in
revealed
a
very many
novel.
books.
Oh, crap. That's going to be weird if they kept it
from Legends.
Legends.
I think it was just so ingrained that
Sheev. I remember being disappointed, but it grew on me. Was it?
By the way,
was it Lords of the Sith?
Fun fact: Josiah and I talked about making the name of the show. That's what Sheev said on a pun that I thought up.
It says the name was first mentioned in the prologue to novelization of Star Wars, and Luke uses the name once in the novelization of Return of the Jedi.
Sheev?
Mm-hmm.
It says
That's
it was
wild.
finally revealed in the new novel, and it's the new canon novel Tarkin is where it was
that's
canonized.
Right. That's when it was canonized. Okay. Dang, that was a really good book. You need to read that so we can talk
Yeah, I
about
haven't
it.
finished that one.
Tarkin, that's the one that because I read Tarkin, whenever we were like Thrawn versus Tarkin hand
Right.
to hand, and you were like, Thrawn, obviously, and I was like, I know, but read Tarkin. Because there's this whole frickin'... Okay, you know whenever you're...
Here we go.
You know when you're looking at Kilimanjaro, and it's just like
Oh, yeah, all the time.
touching the peak? Or like the Rock of Gibraltar, where it's like just a desert, and there's this giant frickin' turd-looking rock in the middle of the
every day
desert.
of my life, I look at those things.
Yeah. So
Just wake up, throw open the curtains. I was like, "There's the Rock of Gibraltar right next to Kilimanjaro."
remember whenever there's that Bugs Bunny thing? It's like, you've run the Rock of Gibraltar.
Yeah, I don't know why that was such a common.
I don't know, but it was awesome. Anyways,
That time in history, they thought about Rock of Gibraltar like all kids think about quicksand. Like it's something that's really common in your life, and then you grow up and you experience it 0 times.
yeah, you're driving on any racing game. They're like, watch out for the quicksand. Wow.
Anyway,
Dude, arcades were the best.
We're so off topic today.
So, okay, in the novel Tarkin, there is a like crazy like how it looks at the second half of Lion King when Pride Rock just looks like death and there's just thorns everywhere somehow. The land is all the way dry, but with thorns. So there's this place that you have to get to and climb this mountain and stuff. And basically, Tarkin is just a boss. So, anyways, that's what I'm thinking of when I'm talking about Fight Night.
Mountaineer extraordinaire.
Yeah. I imagine he still has those Nazi pants on, though, with the really wide hips. Shirtless, but really wide hips. There was a comic that came out a while back that he was shirtless at like 700 years old. And I was like, who's this for?
Somebody.
Weird.
It's there for the artist, I guess.
Weird. It was something strange. I'll talk about that off camera. I don't want to offend anybody. But anyways, Dooku. So Dooku's from Serenno, and the reason we got into all that is because of Sheev and Tarkin and all that stuff. But for the longest time, Count Dooku to me was like, that's his last name.
Yeah.
But Dooku is his first name, and his last name is actually Serenno. House Serenno.
Yeah.
Like, so in Game of Thrones, House Stark is your last name.
Yeah.
So his name is actually his name is actually Dooku Serenno. But they're so influential, that's also the name of the planet. So he's the Count Dooku Serenno of Serenno.
Serenno.
Good one.
Thanks.
So talk a little bit about when he joins the Jedi, because he's a late bloomer.
Yeah, so he is a little bit like Anakin in this aspect.
Sometimes I say that because I can't remember. I know you have a great memory. Go ahead.
So he comes onto the scene kind of like Anakin. He's a little bit older. Normally they, especially by this point in history, the Jedi are trying to get Padawan in like their infancy.
Does that mean that the child from the Mandalorian would be too old?
I think so, but
50
I guess
years?
it's relative to their species as well. I don't know. It's hard to say. They're
What
like-
if Yoda was like too old? He wants to be the only one there.
He's like
He's
also
also ugly. Look at him, he's pissing himself.
So Dooku comes into the council or into the order a little bit late. I think one of the coolest things that we see in this book is what it's like to be a Padawan in the Jedi Order, because there's not a lot of time spent on that in any of the novels. You don't really get to see very much from the Padawan's perspective in the films. I mean, you see them talking to Obi-Wan in Attack of the Clones, you know, when Yoda's training him, and then you see him get killed by Anakin, and that's about it. It's, you know, just far and wide.
There's a weird thing that happens in Star Wars where the typical life of a Padawan would be ABC, but because every time, like, you're not going to make a movie that's like, all right, peace. Like, that's the name of the, that's the whole scroll.
Right.
Things are great. And here's what a Padawan looks like. So every time we see it, it's an abnormal learning period. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like...
So it's cool to be
able to see, here's an actual typical whatever.
Right. And so one of the things that we learned that I didn't know, and I don't think Josiah knew either, but something that probably a lot of people don't know is that Padawans train when they're younglings, and they don't have a master at that point in time.
Right.
And so they pass like a smaller set of trials around the time of their adolescence, so somewhere probably between 11 and 13. Mm-hmm. And they fight each other, and they kind of basically show the proficiency of their skills. And at that point in time, they're selected by a Jedi Master to train personally, and that's when they'll start going on missions and having, individual training. And it seems, especially from Master and Apprentice, that, they still have book learning and they have assignments and research papers and stuff they have to do.
Right.
But they do that secondary to the training that they see from their main master.
Right. And it's weird because I guess that makes sense. Like, I never knew that, but it makes sense because whenever you see Obi-Wan talking to Yoda about where's Kamino supposed to be, which, isn't that so weird that he wouldn't know where it was if they're like the number one cloners in the galaxy?
I mean, it's weird if you think about it with the idea that clones are so prolific from like episode 2 on, but before then, like, who the frick cared?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like
I guess that's not a huge industry.
It's mostly privatized. You know what I mean?
It's just crazy. Like, what if it was like, so I'm looking for a racetrack. It's supposed to be here in Indianapolis. And they're like, there ain't nothing
Indy
here.
500? Never heard of it.
Yeah. So... when you see those kids in there, when Obi-Wan's coming to talk to Yoda,
none of those would have a
none
master
of them have
yet,
masters yet,
which is pretty cool.
Man, that just is. There's so many kids in there. Mm-hmm. How many people out there are So, I guess you have to be a Jedi Knight to have a Padawan. Mm-hmm. So, man, there's gonna be. I imagine that the farming system is pretty crazy. I don't imagine that you don't have more than one Padawan per knight/master. Mm-hmm. Is it mandatory that you have a Padawan?
No, because I remember...
Dude, because once I would be a knight or a Padawan, I'd be like... Or a master, I'd be like...
Dooku took his first Padawan kind of late. I remember he didn't want one.
Yeah.
And so his first Padawan, Rael Averross...
no, you can't say it like that.
Rael Averross?
Rael Averross.
He's the true son of...
The banquet beard.
He's the true son of Corellia, even though that's not where he's really from, but that's what they make him sound like.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He sounds like a party animal.
Yeah.
So
he bends the rules till they're about to break.
Yeah. He's like, it's still working.
This room's still intact somehow.
So Dooku comes into the Jedi world late in life. Like late enough in life, because I imagine, like, if you're 3 or 4, they're like, eh.
Yeah, it was iffy.
But he's old enough that he, like, frickin' can use the remote.
Yeah.
And
I know that...
He knows his family. He knows his dad, his sister.
He didn't recognize his brother and his sister when he first went back to
Serenno.
Serenno.
You're right.
So he was young enough to where he knew what it was like to have a family, old enough to know what it was like to have a family, but young enough to not remember his family.
Right.
But
he knew there was something there. And he didn't he know where he was from?
I believe he knew he was from Serenno, and that's why they were so iffy about having him there. There was some special banquet or ceremony that was of, like, galactic importance. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to have a Jedi presence on Serenno for it. And so they brought, some of the masters, like Yoda was there, and some of the Padawans as well. And so this is where Dooku's life first starts to kind of shake up, in that, he's kind of wandering about, and then he sees 2 kids getting mugged, essentially. Mm-hmm. And so he goes to intervene. He's far enough in his youngling training that he's proficient in using the Force a little bit, and he's got his hand-to-hand combat down enough to, fend off the muggers.
To stop the altercation.
And it turns out that those 2 people are his older brother and sister.
What if he was like, so we started making out? Star Wars style.
So anyway, I started blasting them. But they're
Cody.
yeah, they're going through whatever kids do on Serenno. I don't know. Be playing party games, winning stuffed animals.
Kid stuff. So he meets his family, and long story short, he discovers
he's drawn to some building of importance because he's having some sort of force vision.
And has Yoda taken him on at this point?
No, this is before he's been taken on.
So he's probably
Padawan.
like, I always pictured him like 12 here.
To me, it was like 8 to 10.
That's much younger than I imagined.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're right.
Part of that's the voice acting though too.
Yeah.
Aw, man. Like, you can only get so young before you're going, wow, and it just sounds stupid. I love my voice. So you've got...
but he has this dark side vision, essentially.
He goes into his... And he doesn't realize at the time that it's his household.
No, he doesn't understand how powerful his family is. Or what his family name is.
Right. So there's a... I don't know. To me, it kind of strikes me as like almost like a temple, but it's like family gathering.
It was somewhere between a temple and like Congress or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was
a
very important
not to say
building.
temple like they're worshiping themselves, but almost like Jedi temple, like this was built in their honor, like an homage.
It's a significant building.
So he goes in there, and there's this crazy beast.
Yeah, that only he sees, by the way.
Yeah, and it's
supposed to be...
Well, his sister talks about it a little bit.
There's something in the lore of the House of Serenno.
Right. And it's like this weird dragon meets the crazy jaguar guy from Road to El Dorado looking thing. And he's like, oh, it moves. Wow, what a crazy tapestry or whatever. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And it's basically a dark side vision. And by the end of this thing, he's trying to fight it, but it's not really there kind of thing. And he pulls... episode 2 of him pulling the ceiling down on himself.
Well, I remember he
nearly kills himself and his sister.
He does it on accident and somehow makes the building collapse. But I remember he's trying to rescue his sister, and so he's basically just now starting to learn how to manipulate objects with telekinesis,
but insanely strong at the same time.
Yeah, but it's like untrained but more powerful than he knows.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to like really focus in on it and lift a bunch of rubble, and to his surprise it shifts until he looks on the other side and sees that Master Yoda's the one moving all the rubble and rescues his sister.
That was funny.
But so, that's it. That's
his kind of first brush with the dark side.
Insight into kind of almost his Kylo Ren calling to the dark side, that it's courting him.
You beat me to it.
Sorry. But it's courting him, you know what I mean? It's actually calling to him personally, and that's a very rare occurrence.
Right.
That something so significant would happen in the life of a youngling.
It's a rare occurrence because a lot of times you look and the dark side calls to you, but it's an individual that needs your attention. That's a manipulator. But this is just the dark side itself. Yeah. And what's weird is the dragon or beast or whatever that he sees that's in the family mural that he fights or whatever, it's like that thing... To us as a reader, knowing Star Wars lore, we're like, oh, that's the dark side. That's what they're describing right there. That's trouble. But it's in the family lore, it's kind of like when this stuff happens, chaos ensues.
Right.
It's like it's all kind of disorder, but we know it as the dark side. And so, anyways, as he gets older, he becomes best friends with Sifo Dyas.
Yeah, they're friends as younglings. They kind of get in trouble together.
And that was another pleasant surprise, was the unpacking of not just their relationship, but I've always wanted to know more about Sifo Dyas.
Yeah,
and what's crazy is when they were writing Attack of the Clones, George Lucas almost wrote Sifo's name as Sido Dyas, as if it needed to be more confusing between him and Sidious. So learning more about Sifo was cool, and they get into shenanigans together, and they're very much, they reminded me of the Mischief Managed crew from Harry Potter, because they're like, okay, so there's a secret, it's very Harry Potter in this section of the book, where there's a secret place in the Jedi Temple.
And Dooku's gonna super sleuth him out.
Yeah, and there's a portion of the library that holds...
You're not supposed to be able to get into there, and he uses his sand bending training to unlock the door.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, he's kind of...
it holds the prophecies, and it holds a lot of the dark side stuff.
A lot of the dark side artifacts, and
Which
one
is
of
so
the
weird
Jedi
that they would have that
Masters
kind of stuff
that
because
he brushes with is Lena Costana.
Yeah.
And he actually believes her to be a dark side user for a while.
Because she studies that kind of stuff. And so he starts to become obsessed with prophecy. And Yoda's very like, yo, dog, don't be looking at that stuff because to be obsessed with prophecy in their eyes is to be obsessed with the future.
Right.
And to be obsessed with the future is to want to change or control the future, which is a dark side trait.
And I've spent some time contemplating this, and this is kind of the conclusion I've arrived at. The reason that's considered a dark side trait is because the Jedi are about submitting to the will of the Force, and when you're seeking to know the future, you're seeking to control the future.
Which is not submission.
Which means that you're seeking to bend events to your will as opposed to being an instrument of those things.
Right.
And so the Jedi are very opposed to such an ideology, and it's something that they discourage, seeking out. They call them the mystics, the persons who would actively seek out visions and try to...
Which was a big deal in the early Jedi teachings.
Right.
And they kind of pushed away from that.
Right.
And when he learns that this is the way that the first Jedi did stuff, and now we're away from that, he starts to see that side of things coupled with the fact that they were so heavily involved with the politics of the Republic. And from a pretty early age, it starts off really small, but from an early age, you start to see him be a little bit frustrated with the way of the council.
Way that the council's run.
And so he has his first Padawan before Qui-Gon Jinn, whose name was Rael Averross. That's the guy that you were talking about earlier. And he starts to teach Rael kind of the old school way. Here's what you should be doing. Here's what you should be concerned about. Let's talk a little bit about the prophecies.
It's interesting to see Dooku as a master outside of the dark side, because he's really trying to shape Rael into being someone who thinks for themselves, thinks more independently, and that's very evident in Rael's personality. By the way, somewhere between here and there, Yoda picks Dooku to be his Padawan, which is a rare honor. Like, everybody was surprised.
Because he's the High Council member.
Right, and he wanted to be
Costanis.
picked by Lena Costana, and he was disappointed when she picked Sifo-Dyas, and he felt dejected because he was obviously the strongest Padawan in that series of training.
Yeah, it wasn't even close.
And he felt like maybe everybody was going to pass him up until Yoda came up later and selected him.
Right.
And that was an interesting look into his life, because Yoda's training was so unique. And Yoda was so Yoda when he did it, but he was basically forcing Dooku to learn lessons for himself, challenging him to the extra degree where Dooku was frustrated because he saw his friends getting actual instruction, and Yoda was pulling it out of him.
He felt like...
He almost felt like he was insignificant.
Yeah. Well,
that he wasn't worth
to me,
time.
If I put myself... This is how I read it, and part of that might be because of my personality, but to me it felt like, okay, so you're going to pick me so you get the credit because I'm the strongest character, I'm the strongest Padawan, but you also don't want to take the time to teach me. Does that make sense? Like, so you don't want anybody else to get the credit for teaching me because I'm the strongest, so you wanted to get that credit, but now you're too important to spend time with me.
Well, and at the same time, I think about his natural desire for power, and he knew that being Yoda's Padawan would be a sure road to becoming more powerful, and then he felt like he wasn't getting any of that he expected to get.
Right. And Yoda sees that too.
Yeah.
And so Yoda's kind of like, hey, I need you to learn humility before I can teach you anything else. So it's interesting because I guarantee you by the end of everything, they have a very strong relationship, but we've never really gotten to unpack that, even through these novels that have come out, Master and Apprentice. And between Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray and Dooku Jedi Lost by Cavan Scott, those have really, really increased my interest in Dooku and in the depth of his character.
It would be cool to get a Master and Apprentice version of Yoda and Dooku almost.
That would be sick.
That would be cool.
So you've got his first Padawan after, he becomes a knight and a master. And it's like there's no struggle there.
Yeah. And it should be noted at this point, Dooku is one of the most powerful members of the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
He's the one who's in charge of instructing all the lightsaber forms in combat.
He was, to quote you, he was Mace before Mace was Mace. And I would love to see that head-to-head. I know we talked about that a little bit before the episode started, but he gets offered a seat on the council, and it's it's almost like a placation. Mm-hmm. It's almost like, not placation like you stay home, but like to placate to him because he's starting to really pull out of the Jedi Council or the Jedi Order, and he's, like we said, he's keeping in contact with his family at home. He's very interested in politics. He's very naturally manipulative. And I think that the Jedi Council sees, here's a strong character, here's somebody who we really need his mind, we really need his thoughts, and he's an amazing spokesperson.
Well, and it's apparent that the Jedi Order kind of like values diversity as well.
Yeah, they value the diversity of it, but it's almost like similar to Anakin. Let's reel him in a little bit and give him a couple of crumbs.
Right.
And unlike Anakin, who was like, okay, I'll do it. Yeah. We see foreshadowing of what Qui-Gon was like, where Qui-Gon says, I'd rather keep my own way of thinking if you're just going to keep, I know you guys aren't going to change your mind. I'm not changing my mind. And he kind of gets that. Rael and Qui-Gon share so many of Dooku's qualities, strengths and weaknesses. And so he gets offered a seat to the council. He turns it down. Sifo Dyas does not turn it down. And eventually he leaves the Jedi Order because he believes he can do more good in the galaxy as a politician, running the planet, his homeworld of Serenno. Yeah. And from there, his disenfranchisement with the Jedi, with their corruption, he feels like they're almost like a dog on a leash held by the Republic. That they're not doing their own thing. They could be growing more powerful. They could be growing wiser. But everything they're doing is whatever the Republic wants. Right. Let's make the Republic happy. And he was not happy with that.
Right. And it's, in between all of this, there are important things happening. There are events where he gets to reunite with Sifo Dyas and go on a mission with Lena Castana. And he has another one of those braces with the dark side, and then you see him while he's training Qui-Gon. Maybe this was in Master and Apprentice, but you see where there's an assassin that Qui-Gon chases down, and Dooku's catching up, and Dooku, catches up and protects Qui-Gon from being killed. But I think he uses Force lightning in this. He kills him in this scene, and he relishes it, though it's overly violent, and Qui-Gon was kind of disturbed by it, and so we're seeing leaks of these characteristics where he values the power, he values maybe a little bit more recompense as opposed to soft justice.
Well, it's weird because he enjoys you're going to pay for what you did.
Right.
And Qui-Gon is like, yo, what is that about? But what's crazy is if you look at the larger timeline of Star Wars, that's exactly what Yoda and Obi-Wan are wanting Luke to do. If you encounter the Emperor and Darth Vader, you have to kill them for not just for what they've done, but to stop the evil.
Be left alive.
Yeah. And I think that's what sets Luke apart as a Jedi. Is I would rather seek peace, maybe even to the point of death, to sacrifice, to see the good, to see the hope in things.
And you see Dooku start to distance himself over the course of these events by even beginning to wear more traditionally Serenian clothes, where he's dressed nicer. He kind of rejects the Jedi garb,
more casual look.
And he's starting to move that direction even before he removes himself from the Jedi Council.
And when he creates his own lightsaber, it's very alarming to Yoda because he chooses that curved handle because it's very aggressive, as Palpatine would say. It's a one-up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, Yoda's thing to Luke is a Jedi only uses the Force for protection and defense. And here comes Dooku, who's already stronger, who's already more powerful, who already has those traits that tend towards self-preservation. Yeah. And he's going to create a handle based on something that he had seen in the past that was it was an offensive style weapon.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of a red flag that he just kind of overlooked. He saw it, but he was never confrontational to Dooku about it. And so by the end of Jedi Lost, he's back on Serenno. He's stopped this big uprising, and he's just sticking around. And later on, after that, because like you said in Master and Apprentice, him and his first apprentice, Rael Averross, are talking, and they're concerned for his place within the light because he leaves. And they're thinking, man, now there's really nothing morally and there's no one above him accountability-wise. Like, imagine you're in the Jedi and you don't take a seat on the council. So now all of those people kind of hold sway over you. Yoda's still obviously alive. He's your master. And when you're a master for life. You know what I mean? Like, you see Obi-Wan multiple times, yes, master, to Yoda, you know? And then you go from that to, well, I'm in charge of a planet now.
Right. And it's like, it was Dooku's way of kind of going over the council's head in a power move. Because as a Jedi, he's subject not only to the Jedi Council, but he's also like a servant, you know, to the Senate, a servant to the galaxy, and whoever's the chancellor, whoever's the head of that.
Democracy!
Exactly. But as a leader of Serenno, now he's influencing not only a planet, but he's influencing systems and greater parts of the galaxy, because that's a rich and wealthy system. And for him to immediately go to the head of that means that he individually holds a lot of power.
A lot more sway. And so you see him do his own thing that way, and that's not really influenced by the dark side as much as, I gotta get out of here. I don't believe in what these people are doing. But the death of Qui-Gon, to him, is the ultimate... He felt, this is more from legends, and I can't really prove that it's in canon still, but there's a book called Labyrinth of Evil, which is kind of right before Revenge of the Sith, and Obi-Wan's talking to Yoda, because he kind of wants to know more about Dooku, because it's kind of personal to Obi-Wan, because that's Qui-Gon's master, and he wants to understand what's going on. And he says, in that book, which is really interesting to me, Yoda says that Dooku warned the council about the shroud of the dark side falling, and that the power of the dark side felt closer to the surface than it had before, and it was Dooku's death or Qui-Gon's death that caused Dooku to leave in the old school, in the Legends content.
Yeah, from the books, Master and Apprentice specifically, we know that Dooku had left
the
Jedi
previously.
Order before even Episode 1 took place.
So it's interesting, but in both areas, it's, we're not doing things right, something's different, something's wrong, we've got to change, and they're turning a blind eye, and he's frustrated and he leaves. But in both Legends and canon, it's the death of Qui-Gon that is the turning point that I gotta join this dark side to do what's right.
Right.
And
it's interesting to see him in a paternal light in that way, because you see him basically as just a manipulator, just somebody who's looking for a way to get one up, but in his relationship with Qui-Gon, especially, you know, when Qui-Gon's a lot younger, that he cares about him, that he wants to protect him, you know, that he's even trying to shape him to be his own person. And so that's a side of Dooku you don't really get.
And at the same time, you know, I know it's been a long time later, but by the time of Attack of the Clones, he's using Qui-Gon's death to try to manipulate Obi-Wan. Yeah. And so you see the more human side, the more we get Dooku's story, but it's showing some good side, but it's showing a lot of the dark. And I think you kind of made this point earlier, but I was kind of thinking this. I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but Dooku, to me, is what Kylo was set up to be if Palpatine had turned Rey to the dark side. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see where you're going with that.
Rey has... Man, this is going to piss some people off. Rey, in Palpatine's eyes, has more potential than Kylo. And he's kind of sick of the Skywalkers.
Also, Palpatine's like, my legacy.
Yeah. He's sick of the Skywalkers. He's sick of trying to work with that bloodline. And he wants to turn Rey on Kylo. What's that face?
Huh?
You don't agree?
No, I don't disagree.
What are you thinking?
You just said something funny. But I think an interesting thing to realize about Dooku, especially in this storyline, is that he would turn and manipulate his best friend growing up and actually even end up killing him to meet his own ends. Yeah. Sifo Dyas was his best friend as a Padawan. He was his best friend in the Order even as an adult, even as a Jedi Master. And he would manipulate Sifo Dyas' foresight and force visions to create the clone army. To create a rift between him and the Jedi Council, and to get him to basically just get his hands dirty, very much like we see Attack of the Clones, where he hires an assassin who hires an assassin who sends bugs. Just this very,
Imagine Dooku goes in and just like destroys Anakin and Obi-Wan to kill Padme, but he hires a dude who hires a chick who's like, you know what chicks hate? Roaches.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? It's like just a very Dooku thing.
Yeah.
Where he's trying to distance himself, obviously for political
playing
reasons.
Chess.
But it's his best friend. I think that's the most heartless thing we see from him, that he would sacrifice that relationship and the life of that person merely to be a pawn, merely to just be a means to an end for him.
And it's crazy because at the same time, I feel like there's a part of Dooku that thinks this is the only way to make things work.
Yeah, but it's still done with a callousness.
Yeah, for sure.
That really marks how much his heart has changed.
It's just strange. It's like Anakin's... I don't know. It's weird. To me, in a way, even what he does, even though it's so heartless, and I completely hear what you're saying, but as far as the end goal of this will make everyone's life better, seems less selfish than what Anakin does. Anakin is, I'm going to kill everyone in the galaxy if it takes it to save Padme's life.
Right.
And Count's is...
I'm going to kill this one person to save everybody in the galaxy.
Yeah. So it's weird. It's a weird thing. It's more... To me, his life is almost more tragic than Anakin's. But Anakin is the more relatable character that the whole saga is built around. You know what I'm saying? And then at the end, like... Did he think that he was going to, like, rule next to Palpatine's side? Next to Sidious's side?
I mean, he already had a whole planet, so...
Yeah.
That's a pretty good start.
And why didn't he sing like a songbird whenever his hands were cut off? I'd be like, it's this guy.
I would reference Dooku Jedi Lost, where Lena Castana teaches him the Jedi Force ability to block out pain, which he also teaches to Qui-Gon.
No, I'm not saying that he was so in pain. I'm saying to save his skin.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like, why doesn't he scream? His hands are cut off.
No, I'm saying, why doesn't he sing?
Why doesn't he
sing?
snitch?
Like, yeah, snitch.
Because, like you said, his whole motivation is the end goal. He doesn't care what the means are, so I guess...
So you think maybe he still believes in the cause?
I think maybe
he could still believe in the end goal, and he's looking at Palpatine like, yo, I thought we were going to finish this thing.
I think maybe he was just too shocked and betrayed. You know what I mean? Also, they don't give him a whole lot of time to be like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know? Palpatine's
kind of.
Palpatine's like, kill him.
Kill him.
Do it.
We shouldn't. It's not the Jedi way. Do it. And the whole time, he's like, you know? Yeah. You know what I would have freaking loved? And I know that it was so important to see Anakin kill him as like another step towards the dark side.
Another turning point.
How sick would Dooku have been during Order 66?
Shoot lightning out of his stumps.
Oh, that would have been cool. Do you need fingertips? These are questions we have, George Lucas. Would it be like force instead of lightning because of it's coming from? Would it be force like Rey, like bowl, like not Rey like the girl, but Rey?
Yeah.
Would it be force this?
Maybe
force microphone.
You know what I wonder if like in Avatar: The Last Airbender you can see firebenders like, like shoot fire out of the mouth, like force lightning out of the mouth.
Dude, imagine the rage and all the haters if Sidious had done that in Episode 9.
That would be so funny, though.
Force.
How funny would that
lightning breath. I'm here for it.
Lethal
I'm still
breath.
Cool. Yeah. Director's cut, JJ. You can still make it. I'm into it. Ian McDiarmid will come back. You already know that. But I would have loved to have seen him during Order 66.
It would have been cool. Although he would not have been remotely as successful in the Jedi Temple as Anakin was.
No. I'm saying I would like to have seen him fighting the clones.
Oh, as a Jedi?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought you were saying
not as a Jedi, just as like they were trying to kill Maul.
I thought you were saying like as like Palpatine's right hand going into the temple where Anakin was.
Why don't you think he would have been successful? Because Anakin had the Elemental Prize?
Anakin at the end was absurdly powerful.
Yeah. I think Dooku could kill anyone in the temple that Anakin killed.
I don't know. All I'm saying is that's like the collection of the most powerful Force users in the galaxy, and he just walked in there with some clones and didn't die.
Yeah.
You gotta think about how many Jedi he killed. I played Battlefront 2, And once those dudes with the double-bladed lightsabers drop down right in front of you, that's game over.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, remember when you're playing as a clone trooper and you're like, we have to protect the library. And you're like,
Yeah.
You're just waiting by the freaking shelves. We're talking about the old version of Battlefront 2, the better one.
2005.
But I'm saying, what if he had survived and it was like...
It would have been cool to watch him
versus
shred
clones.
some clones.
He would have shredded so many clones.
Yeah. It would have been cool.
It would have been cool. Also, I'm very curious about Order 66 now because two things. Did he make so many calls?
What do you mean?
Like, he didn't just... He says, Commander
Palpatine?
Cody, Commander Rex,
yeah.
Commander, you know?
Yeah.
That's a...
Man, I've had to, like, make...
Pre-recorded, maybe?
5 phone calls in a day, and I'm like, oh, my God.
I know.
Will this day never end?
He must have been exhausted. A week later, Commander. Like, how many...
He's still not done.
You know, it's called the 501st Legion. Does that mean there's 501 legions? You know what I'm saying? Anyways, my other thing was Order 66 talks about Jedis, but they are going to execute Maul.
And Ahsoka. I don't know.
So, is it just Force users?
I don't know. Maybe...
How does Anakin get off the list?
Because he's now Darth Vader. He changed his identity.
Correct. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, was he like, you are Darth Vader. Let me change your LinkedIn because we don't want you getting shot now.
I don't know. He would have. He's the most brilliant person in the galaxy. He thought through it.
Obi-Wan's driving and it's like, you have a friend request on LinkedIn from Darth Vader, and he's like, who's this?
Oh, I don't think so.
Anyways, LinkedIn Star Wars jokes. You heard it here first. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen Dooku survive Order 66.
Been cool. It's a cool thought.
Because I guess he would have been in prison on Coruscant. Yeah, he'd be pretty screwed.
I don't know. I think he was powerful enough in the Force. Force lightning, brah.
Force lightning. Who was her sister?
And who was her sister, bro? The Wicked Witch of the West.
A princess. Yeah, Force lightning would have been raw.
Yeah.
If Maul could survive...
I think Dooku could have gotten out.
Who wins in a one-on-one, Maul or Dooku?
I don't want to say. But
Go for it.
Dooku is the king of running away.
Yeah. Grievous is the king of running away.
Yeah, but who trained Grievous? Dooku, the actual king of running away. The Wicked Witch of the West, bro.
Grow up. Man, I think that Dooku's
we never
a better
saw Grievous
duelist.
successfully run away from Yoda.
It's true. Dooku's a better duelist than Maul.
I agree. Lightsaber combat-wise, he is far in a way better.
Maul does not have Force lightning either.
No, he does not.
But he's fast as freak. But Maul
also,
lost to
he
Ahsoka.
hates Dooku. He hates him.
Yeah. Because there is the whole Maul beats Dooku and Grievous thing, but that's with the help of Mandalorians. In the Son of Dathomir
I want to say
comic.
Maul because I like him better. There.
It's interesting. It's a close call. All right. Well, let's wrap it up because we're 600 years into this thing. But we wanted to tell you more. Eventually, I really do want to get into a compare and contrast between Jason Solo and Kylo Ren.
All right, let me read all the books, including Jason Solo. I'll get back to you in 6 months.
Jason Solo. All you got to read is the Legacy of the Force series. Amazing series. Maybe the best series. It's really good. And it's cool because it's written by 3 different authors. So they each have a character that they specifically wanted to bring back, like Wedge, Boba Fett, this person. I don't know who the third one is. I can't remember. I know who it is. I just can't remember her name.
It was the best series. I barely remember it, but it was great.
It's really good. But anyways, Aaron Alston, R.I.P. That author actually passed away after that next series was done after that. But anyways, him, Karen Traviss, and Troy Denning, they alternate. So it's like Wedge Antilles is in this one, then Boba Fett's in the second
Which would have been Karen Travis's book.
Yep. And then also clones are in that later in the books. And then you have...
Classic Karen.
Yeah, my favorite. And then Troy Denning has...
Of course, she loves the clones because she's attracted to the concept of a manager.
What do you mean?
All the clones answer to authority.
Oh, that's funny. Karen. Good job. Good job. The deep cuts today. All right. We'll see you guys next time. May the Force be with you.
And remember, the only family you have here is me.
You gotta put that sound effect in.
I'll do it.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.